All right, guys, welcome back. Today's guest is one that I'm so excited about. He's one of the most influential voices in Christian marriage and family leadership. Emerson Eggerichs is the best-selling author of Love and Respect, a book that helped me and has also helped millions of couples better understand how God wired husbands and wives. He's got a PhD in child and family ecology and is internationally known marriage and family expert. He's spoken to NFL owners, coaches, PGA players and their spouses, and countless of other couples around the world. He's got a brand new book releasing called Lightbulb Moments in Marriage, and the subtitle's 12 Biblical Perspectives for Successful and Satisfied Couples. I throw that subtitle in for the guys that go, I don't read books. Well, 12 stories, I could do that. I could do 12. That's not a whole book. Like I could do that. So, guys, this has got all kinds of aha moments that can instantly change how we communicate, respond, and love one another, especially when things feel tense or confusing. So I'm excited for this conversation because as dads and husbands, our marriages set the tone for our homes. We're going to talk about faith, respect, communication, and small mindset shifts that can make a big difference in our marriage and families. Emerson, welcome to the Journey of a Christian Dad
Hey,
podcast.
thank you, Dan. Thank you. What a kind introduction. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So excited to have you on. Also, a Midwest guy, which I didn't know prior to getting this scheduled. And something I'll share with you is just the simple concept that we said a short prayer before we recorded. And we included how love and respect are what we hope that spouses take from this and can grow. And hearing that concept and reading your book, Love and Respect, really just changed my view on marriage. We talk as guys or people or as couples and talk about love, love, love. And to find out that no, I actually want respect. And me being easily offended, me being easily angered is from respect. So thanks for opening my eyes so I can be more ready for those feelings and have an understanding of that.
No, I think that self yeah, awareness, that moment, that's been a light bulb moment for many men in particular, and for women, that men serve and die for honor. Honor is a huge issue. I was invited by Pat Riley to come and spend several hours with him privately. In fact, numerous times. Also, Coach Spo, he even asked me to speak to the Miami Heat. I said, "You're the only person I've ever asked to speak." But he and I spent hours together because he's an icon understanding this. And it was so refreshing to hear him give voice to this. And I was articulating this that men serve and die for honor. And when you honor men, when you treat them justly, they will die for you. But if you treat them with dishonor and treat them in a way that they feel is unjust, you're going to have mutiny. They're going to either jump ship or they're going to throw you over. And so the challenge for us is to be aware of that in ourselves. That doesn't mean that we can justify our negative reactions to our wives, for instance, because a lot of us will say, "You're not treating me with respect, woman." And of course, that goes over like a Led Zeppelin because she's not processing it from that angle. She's not thinking that I'm negatively reacting to you because I'm trying to dish you. She's saying I'm feeling insecure and I'm reacting negatively to try to awaken you to my need to be reminded that you love me and you're not going to leave me. And so you have this huge misunderstanding. But all of this is based on Ephesians 5:33, where God commands the husband to love and the wife to respect. And that is the summary statement to the greatest treatise in the New Testament on marriage. So it's pretty telling. It is as though this is God's last word to the church on marriage. And if we listen to this, and it is gender specific, it's so illuminating. Now, one of the points I always make is we all need love and respect equally. Women need RESPECT, and men need LOVE. But the felt need during conflict, as you just highlighted personally, I don't shut down or react to Sarah, my wife. We've been married over 50 years, to the feeling that she's not loving. I never think that she's being unloving. I just did. That's not within her nature. Her nature is to nurture. But I don't think she likes me, and I don't respond favorably to the feeling that, this doesn't sound respectful to me. You're critical, you're negative, you're complaining. I mean, men filter it through that grid. And so we have to then, on both sides of this, understand what's going on here because it gives birth to what I call the crazy cycle. And this is what has really helped a lot of people. not to justify our reactions, but to understand why we're reacting. And it goes like this: without love, she reacts without respect. And without respect, he reacts without love. And then without love, she reacts without respect. And without respect, he ad nauseum, and it starts spinning out of control. And I always like to ask the question, have you ever had a conflict with your spouse when suddenly the issue didn't seem to be the issue? And you saw their spirit deflate, or you saw their spirit being provoked, in all likelihood, you're on the crazy cycle. And so now the issue that triggered all of this is marginalized. Now we have another issue, and that's it. We're going to have to deal with the fact that both of us are feeling unloved and disrespected. And then once we settle that, we have to go back to the original issue. But we get so confused in all of this that we just end up distancing ourselves from each other, and that we're roommates, we don't like each other, and yet we're confused. And that's why I say for some, it's not that their marriage is falling apart, it's that it's stuck. They're spinning in the same argument, missing each other, by inches, not miles, but often one moment of clarity. And that's why I wrote this new book, Lightbulb Moments in Marriage. One moment of clarity is all it takes. One insight that reframes the tension, softens the heart, and sets a new course. And that is what we're all about in this new book, because people wrote me. I've got over 400,000 emails, and people in ministry have said, we've never seen this kind of response, because people were having these light bulb moments. It was revolutionary. I mean, we had these 2-day conferences, 1,800 on average would come for these two conferences for about a 12-year run there. And we surveyed 25,000 people. We've gotten all this feedback, and people were saying we had a light bulb moment that just caused us to pivot almost instantaneously. And so I went back and put together this book based on these 12 light bulb moments that people continue to talk to me about, and thus the new book.
Yes, yes. So on this book, the new one that is coming out here soon, the paperback book, towards the end of January.
Yeah, it's actually hardback. I've got one right here.
Yeah,
And
hardback is what I meant to say. Yes. I
yeah,
was like,
light bulb moments. There it is. I'm very excited. My daughter, who's also my agent, she kind of was instrumental in some of this design. And so we're very, very pleased with this. And I have not written something on marriage for many years. We've been doing a lot of stuff, continuing to think through what the next book would be. And that's why this is really, I think, going to be revolutionary, like Love and Respect was. But I'm biased.
yes, yes. I think Audible comes out in March, if I remember
Yeah.
the month
Yeah.
correct. But yeah, so you can get the book right away. Um, at the very beginning, it jumped right in, and I was like, okay, yeah, this book gets me. Like this was my number one issue was chapter one. My worth isn't on trial every time my wife is upset.
But we feel that way, that we can never be good enough, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. You know the saying, "Happy wife, happy life,"
Hmm.
and I absolutely can't stand that saying because it is so not true.
That's correct. And many women don't like it. In fact, I did research on that very point. Most women don't like it either because they see it. That's just not fair. That's not fair.
Yes,
And
yes,
particularly if they have sons, they really, whoa, 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 I don't want my sweet daughter-in-law, who I adore, to say, hey, happy wife, happy life, so get with it, mister. It doesn't work that way. There's two that it takes. But at the same time, there's a deep truth in that. I know that when I love Sarah unconditionally, she'll outserve me. Women are expressive, responsive. And so when we initiate authentically and lovingly, and she's got goodwill, you just don't outgive a woman. You just don't. So there's truth to that. But at the same time, if that's used by women to manipulate the man, and we sometimes see it with men who preachers are saying it to their men in the congregation, and that just turns off men. It just turns them off. It doesn't seem honorable. It seems like you're putting the onus back on me, and I don't think I'm that bad of a guy. But anyway, we don't need to, go into that too deeply, but I'm resonating with what you're saying.
yeah. Well, if we put our worth in the happiness of our spouse, the happiness of our wife, that's the wrong place to value your worth from.
Hmm. Well, yeah, the other side of that then is if I'm seeking to become happy, based on the fact that she's making me happy, then I make her my God, that she's responsible for
Yes.
my emotional condition. And that's why I begin that first chapter. The chapter is our value. Is it God given or spouse driven? Is it God given or spouse driven? In that I've got to come to a point where I don't let Sarah, my wife, define who I am. The Lord defines who I am. That doesn't mean the Lord isn't going to use Sarah to refine me, but he isn't going to use her to define me. And those are two distinct ideas. And I'm going to be adversely and negatively affected by her disapproval of me. That's going to happen. Women will critique because they want to help. They want to help me be better. And so that's an ongoing thing. That's who she is. She's the mothers. And you want to say, I have a mother. I want to love her. I don't need another mother. And so there's a tendency to push back. But her motivation is good-willed. And God is going to use her to help refine me. But if my whole self-image rests on her opinion of me, and you'll see a lot of men say, I can never be good enough. And I've had men, just simply go into depression and big defunks. Men have even taken their lives over the rejection that they have felt from their wife. And I'm saying, time out. Who determines our worth? One of the things that Paul talks about in Corinthians is we've been bought with a price. Paul says that in 1 Corinthians 6:20 and in 1 Corinthians 7:23. And in 7:23, that chapter 7 is on marriage. And he wanted every husband and wife to come to grips. You've been bought with a price, meaning you're worth Jesus to the Father. The blood of Christ was shed for you. Therefore, you're worth Jesus to the Father, which means you're priceless. And that's why he began Corinthians by saying you're blameless. You're saints by calling, not saints by character. We are saints by calling, and we're blameless in the eyes of God, and there is no condemnation. Now, we don't feel that way, but the truth is, that is the truth. And God views me in a certain way. I'm actually a fellow heir with Christ. Everything Jesus Christ is going to receive throughout eternity, for all that he went through, he's sharing that with me. And I've told the Lord again and again, that's not fair, Lord. We should not even be included in this. And yet you talk about what he's giving to us. And so now, am I going to get depressed over the fact that Sarah says something to me negative and I go off and pout and say, woe is me? I've said to myself, grow up, Emerson.
Oh, it's so funny how often we go off and pout. So that might take that a little bit longer and go into the silent treatment.
Yeah, stonewalling.
Stonewalling.
That's
Yeah.
what 85% of those who withdraw in Stonewall is the male. University of Washington studied 2,000 couples for 20 years, and they had their love laboratory where husband and wife were together, and they just documented word choice. They had heartbeats per minute. They had them wired for heart, physiologically. It was in depth. And Gottman wrote a book, Why Marriages Succeed or Fail. But in that, they recognized that during heated moments, men will withdraw. And the question was why? Well, they saw why. When they were doing the heartbeats per minute, men's heartbeats get to 99 beats per minute when they're in a conflicted moment like this. That's warrior mode. So what is it? You're either going to fight or flight, right? But an honorable man doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to escalate. So if you and I were best of buddies since boyhood, Dan, and we got into heated moment, we'll say drop it, forget it, and we walk off because we know we're lethal. So we're doing the honorable thing by de-escalating and walking away and withdrawing. That's honorable in our world. But every woman interprets that as unloving. And this is one of the points I make in our conferences. We have to reframe, we have to decode. That's one of the light bulb moments. That even though as a wife you're feeling unloved at that moment, is he trying to be unloving when you know for a fact if someone came in and threatened your life, he would be dead in his attempt to save you. And Jesus Christ said, no greater love is a man than this, that he laid down his life for his friend. Not that he writes poetry or Hallmark cards. That Jesus Christ has a definition of love, and your husband would die for you. Now, he's not as sentimental as you, he's not as sensitive as you, but at the core, he's an honorable man who seeks to do the honorable thing, and you interpret that as unloving. And so, what we have to then do is decode that. And so, too, gentlemen, she complains and criticizes. 85% of those who are criticizing and complaining is the female. They saw it, and it's interpreted by men as contempt. But that's not where her heart's at. She's not trying to say, I'm getting up this morning storyboarding ways to show you disrespect and to diss you. She's instead insecure and crying out for your love and doesn't know how to get your attention apart from that negative word choice that she's so good at. So you have to ask yourself, is she trying to be disrespectful or is she trying to be reassured of your love? And you need to get in tune with yourself. Are you trying to be unloving or trying to do the honorable thing? And how are you going to then deal with that moment? You've got to let her know, hey, I know you're a loving person and you're not trying to be disrespectful, and I need 15 minutes to calm down because my heartbeats are going through my heart right now. but I will revisit this in 15 minutes to talk about this one issue. But I need a break right now. And I coach people on how you navigate that situation. Many men say, "Well, after 15 minutes, I'm fine, so let's just drop it and forget it." Yeah, that's what we do as men. And again, it's honorable. Why bring it up? Because we'll just infuriate each other again. We make gestures of honor, like, if you and I are in a conflict, then I'm going to say, "Hey, are you still working on your shed in the backyard? I'll come over Saturday to help you." That's my gesture to say everything's okay between us. We don't say, "Hey, can we get together and talk about my feelings? Let's talk about your feelings. You tell me you're sorry." And I say to women, that hasn't happened anywhere. I mean, generally speaking, but there will always be a gesture. I tell women there's always a gesture. So as I say, you men, are you hearing me right now? I'm putting a voice and vocabulary what you think. You say, that's right. I'm trying to do the honorable thing. Therefore, we didn't drop it and forget. No, no. You've got to then introduce a strategy coming back and say, can we talk for 15 minutes about one issue and let's just kind of settle that issue and then let's move on. And I talk about that in this Lightbulb Moments book and how you do that because it's so important because this is why we're so close. I mean, think about it. You're interpreting as unloving when or as disrespectful when she's really not. And she's interpreting you as unloving when you're just an honorable man. We're so close. And yet that closeness isn't discerned. And we end up hating each other. And people are divorcing. And I've said to people, why are you getting a divorce? We don't know. I said, was there adultery? No. No. This thing has gone on so long that now they resent each other because they've said to each other, stop treating me this way. And then because they don't stop treating them because they're doing what their gender tells them to do, I must not matter to you. You don't value me. Therefore, now we judge the other person as uncaring. And you talk about two good-willed people who really love God, love Christ, but they are totally confused. But that's why we're saying you can have a light bulb moment that enables you almost instantaneously on some of this to turn the corner. Doesn't necessarily make it easy, just makes it far easier.
It drives me crazy when I know two different people individually that at some point get married and then you find out, oh, they're getting divorced. I'm like, I was in high school with that guy and we were like pretty close, pretty good guy. I was in college and this girl was in our social circle and I knew her pretty well, pretty good girl. What in the heck went wrong? And often it's simple stuff like this. And again, you ask them like, hey, what was going on there? Ah, we just don't get along anymore. We grew apart. Well,
That's right.
they couldn't communicate. They didn't
That's right.
understand love and respect.
That's right. Well, as I say, it's a lack of mutual understanding. Even people say the key to marriage is communication. No, communication is not the key to marriage. If I speak perfect Spanish and you speak perfect German, we're not going to get through to each other. We have to know what the other means by what they're saying. We've got to understand their language. There's a pink and blue vocabulary. There's a love and respect vocabulary. And what happens is people don't take enough time to try to figure out what it is that that person is saying. Just as I pointed out, she's trying to say, I need reassurance of your love. I'm not coming at you because I'm trying to show you disrespect. But see, he's not hearing that. He doesn't understand that. And when he withdraws, she's interpreting that as rejection and unlove. Shawnee Feldhahn, my good friend, said she discovered in her research women are three conversations away from fearing they're going to hear their husband say, I don't love you, I never have loved you, have no intentions of loving you, and I'm leaving you. They're three conversations away from that. That's why women are so quick to try to repair. Once they've had their meltdown, they will repair because they become extremely insecure about him leaving. That's a deep-seated fear that women have. But what happens is if she interprets him really as unloving, when he was just trying to be honorable and calm down because he didn't want to do anything that was going to damage the relationship, talk about lack of mutual understanding. But once that mutual understanding is there, then there will become the communication, then there'll be communion.
You bring that up, and that is such a key point because I don't think guys fully get how insecure wives can be. I heard the joke, something about a guy being married 40 years and like, hey, when was the last time you told your wife you loved her? Well, the day we got married, I meant it, and I let her know if I ever change my opinion, I'll let her know that too.
Exactly. Exactly. I gave her that information. If anything changes, I'll let her know. Yeah, and that's exactly what women are not looking for. They're not looking for information. They're looking for reassurance emotionally because they can pick up on, false words. They want to know our heart. And we could say, "Oh, just grow up, woman." Well, if we have that dismissive attitude, then she's going to return the favor when we're vulnerable sexually or we're in need of her. We all have our vulnerabilities. And instead of pointing fingers at each other, we need to then come to a point where we recognize you have a vulnerability over there. I have a vulnerability over here. You have a need of me over here. I have a need of you over here. Those vulnerabilities and needs are different, but the intensity is equal. And once we understand that, we are empathetic. And once empathy is in the relationship, you'll do well.
So you just mentioned having sexual needs. I know guys' ears perked up. Like, have them keep talking about that, Dan. They're not
Yes.
live with me. They're not speaking in my ear, but I can imagine they're thinking that. So help us through that. So guys like, I need this, I need this, I need this. I got to figure out a way to get this.
Right.
Where's our flaws? Where do guys go wrong in thinking and doing and taking actions and how can they make that part of their lives better?
Well, I talk about this being a continuum, that God has designed both men and women to need each other emotionally and sexually. I mean, we want friendship. We married her because we thought she was going to be the best friend who looked up to us and admired us, and we could change the world because of that. We needed that. And when men lose their wives, many men are just so lonely they can't handle that loneliness because men are designed to need companionship. So it isn't just sexual. We need a good friend, but she becomes unfriendly in our opinion. She doesn't like us. But given that we all agree, yes, it's not just sex to me. I want a good, solid friendship here. So we need sex. Our anatomy is such we need that release. There's a buildup and there's an explosive release. God has given us a clear visual. There shouldn't be much debate about that. But we also need that emotional connection. But I say the same thing. She wants to connect sexually and emotionally, but she gets at the sexual through the emotional. And here's the trick, you've got to love her emotionally apart from sexual agenda. And this is the irony. She needs to know that she's safe and secure, that you're not using her, that you want her for her, and that's what arouses her. And she wants arousal. That's why she wants the romance. She's saying, surprise me, make me laugh, romance me, because she wants to be turned on sexually. That's why women love to go to weddings. And that's why if you go to a wedding with your wife and you're out of town and you're in the hotel, she'll be sexually intimate with you. That you need to understand what triggers her sexual life. And she wants sex. In fact, but many of you men said, no, she's frigid. She's not interested. Possibly. I can't speak to every situation, but my prediction is if she's healthy, then, and I also predict this early on, she was responsive to you sexually, but maybe she was sexually interested 2 days a week and you wanted four. And so then you begin to intimidate her, which I understand. I understand the struggle, but you begin to push back that there was something wrong, and now she shut down on you. So you had a good thing going, and it could have improved with her learning about your needs. And particularly if you said, hey, fair is fair here. I would like to be sexually intimate 3 times rather than 2 times. But you know what? I want to talk to you for 15 minutes every night, 7 nights a week, just because. I just want to listen to your heart. I think I need to just learn how to be altruistic. I need to be more loving. I'm not doing that just to get one more day of sex, but I would enjoy that. But I want this to be where we both have each other's back, and I want to be more aggressive in meeting your needs than somehow making an appeal that you're not meeting mine. I don't know too many women who would bark against that. They just don't. They appreciate that, and you can talk about it, debate it. But my point is, women were all in. They didn't fully understand our sexual needs any more than we understand their need to talk. And I say to guys, come on. How many of you guys just need to talk, 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 talk? How many of you guys, you hurt my feelings? We need to talk. We just don't go there. It's just not a need. We just drop it, forget it. Let's move on. So it's incomprehensible to us that she has this need to talk on an ongoing basis. She's just going to complain again. It's just the same thing over and over again. Same thing. You guys just dismiss it. Well, I get it. At the same time, now can you understand why she's not totally visually oriented sexually? I say if I was in a church and 50 women came in bikinis, I say to all the men, let's bow in prayer. If 50 men came in with thongs, women would be vomiting. It's just sickening to them. There's a huge difference here. And so my point though is she isn't tracking. She's not trying to be mean-spirited with you sexually. She just doesn't have the same need any more than you have that need to talk. So, two people with goodwill have to begin to appeal to the other, to begin to understand this and find on the continuum that you both need emotional and sexual connection. But you start and I say to so women, if you meet his needs sexually first, a lot of times the guy's going to lay there in bed and he doesn't shut up. He's going to talk, 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 talk. Particularly if he's been gone for 2 weeks and now you take care of him, you honor him. It's like, wow, you're my best friend, and he's going to open up to you. But see, if you say, I'm not going to have sex with him until he starts talking to me, I get that. But the same thing holds true. A guy's saying, do I have to talk to her in order to get sex? Yeah. I mean, you have to then come to this point where you both realize, hey, you know what? We're in this together. And apparently God has designed us this way. And that's why the Lord, I'm writing another book called The Win-Win Marriage based on 1 Corinthians 7. The Lord intends for us not to deprive each other, but to come together again by agreement, lest Satan tempt you because of your lack of self-control. And the question is, how do we find that agreement? And that's what the win-win book is going to be all about, besides just the light bulb moments. But I've gone on too far and too long, but I hope that makes sense to you, Dan.
It does. It does. So a lot of dads are listening. They're not bad husbands. They're tired. They're discouraged. They're just worn out from trying. And so they go a different direction. They're kind of apathetic or dismissive. Which of these light bulb moments do you see bring men the fastest?
That bring what was the question?
Like the guys that are just tired and discouraged, which of these light bulb moments might be one that helps free men the fastest, helps
Well, it
get
could
them
be any,
away
yeah,
from
no, it's
their
a good question. It could be any one of the 12 because part of what causes men to become fatigued isn't because they're indifferent to having a best friend admire him and look up to him and be that cheerleader. I mean, every man longs for that. But what happens, he becomes defeated by the fact that nothing I seem to do is good enough. And it just seems like there's going to be something that she's going to criticize again. And once he locks into that, he loses hope. And so part of what we're doing right now is giving hope to men that maybe there are some insights in this book, and it could be any one of the 12. It depends on where you're land, because I talk about the upward dimensions of faith. It could be that we have to come to that point. My self-image must rest on Christ's image of me, and I've got to bring my identity to the marriage rather than derive my identity from the marriage. That could be a light bulb moment for some guys. So that whole upward component, I have four major light bulb moments that are faith oriented. But then I have four light bulb moments that are interpersonal, that how the marriage is going on. And then I end the book with the inward, that this whole issue of emotional intelligence and who I am as a person and my awareness, about what's going on in some of this. And so any one of those 12 could cause this just to be a eureka moment. I found it.
So, guys, I encourage you to get the book, and I encourage you not necessarily to incorporate the whole book, but just grab one thing that you think you might be able to do.
Oh,
One of
absolutely. I can't handle all 12. You can't. I mean, it's just too much. But there are these moments, particularly with that major one that you're talking about, could really, oh man, I never even thought about that before. For instance, we don't know how to argue, and we are arguing over clashing preferences. It's usually not a moral issue, right? It's not a black and white issue. It's not a biblical issue. It's not a thus saith the Lord issue. It's, should we save or spend? Should we send the kids to Christian school or homeschool? I mean, these are all clashing preferences. Should we go to the traditional worship service or the contemporary? Should we go to the, none of these issues are thus saith the Lord. And so, but what happens if I feel I'm right, therefore my spouse has to be
wrong.
wrong. But that's what we call a quantitative judgment. That's not a relative statement. We don't have language to say your decision here about that is less better than mine. We don't have language that says less better. It's too clunky. So one of the points I make that could be an illuminating moment, not wrong, just different shades of right. And I say to Sarah, neither one of us are wrong in this, honey. This is just different shades of right. Different shades of right. Now, I think that there is a wiser way. I think there's a better way. I think there's a best option, but that doesn't mean that because my way is better, Sarah's is bad. You follow what I'm saying here?
Oh yeah,
Once you
100%.
introduce this, like,
100%.
once we introduce the idea that we're teammates, we're not opponents, we're allies, not enemies, there's language that I give. So when these tensions arise, one of us says, look, we're not enemies, we're allies. We're teammates, we're not opponents. Look, your way could really be far better than mine. I don't always see things clearly. Neither one of us are wrong on this issue. We both have virtue, values here. We're both trying to do what God wants us to do. I just think my way is better. But we're just looking at this through shades of right. So let's continue to talk about this. Now, given one's not just outright selfish and wants to control all the time, then you've got issues because of you. You're the problem. But if there are two good-willed people, based on 1 Corinthians 7:33 and 34, Paul said the husband is concerned about how to please his wife, and the wife is concerned about how to please her husband. I mean, he didn't say you're selfish, sinful people, totally depraved, and on your way to hell apart from faith in Christ. No, he said you're created in the image of God, and your wife is concerned about how to please you. Your husband is concerned about how to please you. So we've got to give them the benefit of the doubt during conflict. And so Sarah and I will say we're teammates. We don't like each other right now, but we're teammates on the same team, same goal, same team, different place. Okay, and uh, different shades of right. So now we got to brainstorm on this. Now, if I'm selfish, I won't do that. But if I'm selfish, then I'm going to have a problem in my marriage. And furthermore, I've got to give an account to Jesus Christ. Because at the end of the day, this marriage is temporary. I'm ultimately married to Jesus Christ, and I'm going to stand before him, and he's going to say, Emerson, you are a selfish person here. I gave you the principles on how to soften your wife's heart, and Sarah is a expressive, responsive person who, at the end of the day, wants to be one with me. She's not as selfish as you think she is, and she really would rather do things together as a team, regardless of what you do. She's hardwired that way. She enjoys that sense of connection, and you just simply ramrodded your ideas because at the end of the day, you were so fearful that you weren't going to get what you wanted, you simply manipulated her. But now, if you're in that camp, I have struggles with those types of guys. You're insecure, you're arrogant, and you're angry, and you're just going to do what you want to do when you want to do it. But most guys are not in that camp. And so once you get this language I'm talking about, it's like, boom, you talk about a relationship that's back as it was when you were dating. It's just mind boggling.
Yes, yes, yeah. So, guys, if you're in a series of okay or bad, or you can get through that,
Huge.
read
Yes, absolutely.
read Emerson's books. Like, read his books, listen to him on Audible, whatever you got to do. Check out podcasts. But these concepts are actually fairly easy to implement. You just have to remind yourself often to pay attention and
Yes,
do
yes,
the things in
yes.
our male nature. We can tend to not treat our wives as wives.
Yeah, there's
The
one big yes. The light bulb moment is the one big aha moment. It's just like, yes. And then there are a whole series of little yeses. I know this stuff. Sarah chased me around the house with my love and respect book once saying, what would you say to a husband treating his wife the way you're treating me right now? Whenever I share that at the conference, people go crazy. And so we all are going to fall short. But, and I said to her, I write about this stuff. I don't do it, woman. Good grief. What kind of expectation? So, but my
make for sure you
that's right.
enunciate and use
But
tone of voice and have a
yeah,
big smile when you call
that's
her a
right.
woman.
That's right. But I think it's 20 Proverbs 24:16 says a righteous man falls 7 times, but arises again. And so none of us are going to do it perfectly, but there's got to be this first big yes to this illuminating moment. It's kind of like, wow. And then over the months and years, there's a whole bunch of little yeses, but that's okay. That's totally different than just being in the dark.
So I think it's pretty obvious how guys can connect with you and also buy your books and that type thing. But any places you want to share for them to go to do that?
Well, no, loveandrespect.com. The book I wrote, Love and Respect. So it's loveandrespect.com. And just a ton of resources there. I would love for the men to join my community. And because we are putting out content daily. And I'm very excited. I'm in my best years. Philosophers and
Yes.
theologians get better later. I mean, you see that baseball diamond behind you. Athletes and hard scientists peak at, they don't go too much beyond 35. And so I'm in my best years. I'm excited about providing the insights from all the mistakes I've made. And hopefully you don't have to go through the same mistakes.
I thought it was kind of funny. You almost sang Respect. So that was a rallying cry for women. Aretha sang it, Aretha Franklin, and it was written by a man.
Otis Redding.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
say, and one of the things I say, the one song we had, men, they took from us because he sang it to his wife. It was written to his wife. And Aretha came along and twisted it around. And so I said, the one song we had, men, they took. We had one song and they took that.
So things can get twisted. You can see things in the world and get twisted. If you go back to the Bible and source things and talk to other guys that are in the Bible, you can get a lot more of these truths. And so Emerson's books are rooted in biblical principles. So I highly encourage you to jump in, read. He's not just a philosopher, philosopher and stoic. He's fun, engaging. There's lots of humor in these books. And if you hear the word book and you instantly turned off, you can get turned on by these books because they're
Yeah, and on that
very,
point, I mean, men, they read sports. I mean, we men are not non-readers. They'll read what they're interested in. But as we've said in the industry on the marriage topic, it's all slanted toward the wives, and so men don't hear their mother tongue. But you read my stuff or listen to the audio, you'll hear your
yes.
mother tongue as you've done today. I take the position I've taken all along. Men are not indifferent to marriage. They're indifferent to being dishonored and unjustly treated when the topic of marriage surfaces. So my writings exploded. 49% of those who initiated coming to our 2-day conference were the men. We did that research. Men are not,
Wow.
I've said all along, men are not indifferent to marriage. They just shut down on being dishonored and unjustly treated. That just turns them off. And they don't know how to capture that. They don't know how to say it other than "you're being disrespectful, woman." And of course, that doesn't explain anything to her. So anyway, thank you so much for this interview, and honored to be part of this. Thanks.
Could you throw a challenge out for the guys, something they can do week to week in between podcasts? Doesn't have to be something hard, but it can. Something where they can
Yeah.
become better.
Well, one of the light bulb moments is seeing Jesus Christ beyond the shoulder of your wife or spouse. I mean, Jesus said, "As you've done to the least of these, you've done it to me." Paul picked up that theme in Colossians and Ephesians, as to the Lord, as to the Lord, as to the Lord. He continued to go from the horizontal to the vertical, that it's not about your wife. So that one of the incentives, and we didn't know how this would play. We did the research because you can have a marriage that the marital satisfaction scale is not there. You're just not satisfied. But we have what we call the spiritual scale, and I would call men and women to put a stake in the ground to do this unto Jesus Christ, regardless of your spouse, because you can touch the heart of Christ even if your spouse isn't responding. And the way in which I created the word picture is that Jesus is standing beyond the shoulder of your spouse. And you do the loving thing because you're doing it toward Christ, not toward her. That doesn't mean that, I mean, you understand what I'm trying to say there. It's not that
Yes,
she's
yes.
irrelevant, but in some ways she's irrelevant. And so there is this challenge I extend this next week. Um, Next time she, quote, quote, annoys you, just stop for a moment and ask yourself, see, here's the deal. You would die for her, that you're a man of honor. You die for her because your love for Jesus Christ and just who you are. But the question is, can you live with her? When I asked that at the conference, it's that kind of response of, wow, it's easier for me to die for this woman than it is for me to live with her. And we all kind of say that's probably true. It's probably true. So the question really is, what's the harder challenge here? Well, the harder challenge is to see Jesus Christ standing beyond the shoulder of your spouse. And instead of getting annoyed and doing whatever you do, as one guy said to his wife because they'd been at the conference, make my day. He's make my day. Bring it on, woman. Diss me because I'm going to love you because I'm loving Jesus Christ beyond you. Make my day. And she started laughing. They use it humorously, but make my day.
That's awesome.
Isn't that great? I love it.
And what a great way to bring humor into it. Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you very, very, very much, Emerson. You're welcome to come back anytime you want. Your material is fantastic and your personality is just awesome. So
Well,
definitely,
you're kind to say that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, definitely something that guys can connect with as opposed to being, very
Lectured.
lecture. Yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So thanks for bringing the fun and humor into marriage as well as just so many different ahas and gems that we can employ so we can have an awesome marriage.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. Thank you so much. God bless you. And
You
guys,
too.
thanks for listening. And I'm telling you, dive into these principles and improve your marriage. Improve your marriage. It'll improve your family and you'll grow closer in Christ and that'll benefit for generations to come. Thanks, guys. God bless.